Hello again, everyone. Amin here with Living to Give, joined today by my brother, Brandon Yu. So, Brandon and I have known each other about 8 years. We met at the gym, of course. And Brandon, very interesting story. He left corporate America, very comfortable job, to go basically freeze people for a living. So, we're going to get into that, into some other endeavors that he's undertaken. I call him a serial entrepreneur. And we're going to talk about quite a few things today. We're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about dogs and puppies. Thanks, Brandon, for making me get a dog. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And obviously about giving. So without further ado, Brandon, my brother, thank you so much for making time out of your crazy hectic day today.
Of course, I love you, and I'm honored to be interviewed by you as well.
I appreciate it. All right, so I wanted to start first and foremost with faith. So we went to church together. I'm Muslim. My wife is um, Catholic, and so are you. You're a man of faith. It's something that I really respect about you. We went to church not too long ago with your lovely wife, Veronica. Can you tell and share with people what the message was? I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean the message. Now you're testing me if I was listening to the church
All right.
sermon. The message was actually about love and loving oneself first and loving yourself first before you can spread love to others. And I think that's important for me. I think in faith is being able to understand that you're always loved by, in my situation, God, right? And whatever others believe. And that starts with number one, and knowing that, and then being loved by someone, and then loving yourself before you can spread love to your other loved ones, family members, friends, etc.
How important has love been in your life? I mean, the reason I asked this question, you not too long ago started a company. It was a cryotherapy studio. So basically, you froze people for a living. Here's my
For
dog.
health, not for death, not for dead people. For
Okay, exactly. Here's a cameo appearance by Nougat. And so, what I thought was really interesting is that you could have just stayed comfortable, like a lot of Americans do, and just they say like the most difficult thing is like just relying on a salary, right? It's pretty dangerous. It's just like you're comfortable, you just kind of count on that salary, and maybe you don't take risks. So how important was it to have the love and support of your wife to put up with your crazy idea, and you ended up exiting for, and I'm not going to put the amount on, but pretty successful. So kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. So I actually, when I first met Veronica, my wife, I was in the corporate world, so I hadn't even had this idea of wanting to freeze people. And I think, that love and support that Veronica had provided, understanding that it would be a lot of work, and that it was a journey to kind of go through is very important. Because I believe if you don't have alignment in all areas of your life, what happens is you're basically you have this internal battle, right? So if like Veronica was selfish and wanted me to spend time with her always, and let me just turn off my notifications here. I apologize. If Veronica was selfish and just wanted me to spend all of my waking moments with her, then I wouldn't have been able to build a successful business or even start a successful business to be able to sell. And I think that's very important to have that alignment and support throughout your loved ones in general. And so, yeah, it's very important. And Veronica has been amazing throughout the process, along with friends like you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a shout out to, our families, our friends, certainly my wife. It takes an incredible amount of love, understanding, patience. You and I can be crazy sometimes with our vision and goals and aspirations. And I think it's so important. Let's talk about kind of the importance of having a significant other, whether it's a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that supports us and basically gives us kind of that faith and belief. What has Veronica, your wife, and maybe even family and friends uh, brought to you, right? Like whenever I hear stories about, you traveling and stuff. I'm like, he's gonna go work over there, right? He's not gonna be able to take time off. So talk about that and kind of the perspective that she brings to your life.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest, it's like an internal battle that always occurs, because I think me and you are wired in the same way where we're always looking at the next thing and what we can achieve next. But I think what Veronica does specifically for me is keeps me grounded and brings me back to the present. And I think when you look at happiness and inner love, it's not necessarily about what can I achieve next, or, looking at that next thing, because that can actually cause unhappiness. But it's being kind of present in the moment and grateful for what you do have, and those types of things. And, quite frankly, obviously I love my family, and obviously, that's a type of love. But Veronica is like one of my whys of like, I want to be able to provide the best life for her. And I don't work as hard to drive a Lamborghini or those types of things. It's to be able to kind of have the time freedom and the options to be able to provide for her and our family in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a recurring theme with close friends and just people that I respect that I've had the pleasure of interviewing. And number one, like Carolyn, who I consider a sister, who was on the last interview. She was dressed with a hoodie, right? You see me now, kind of dressed relaxed. You're known as Mr. White Shirt, like you're always wearing a t-shirt. I guess it's a bit cold in DC now. So first and foremost, I love kind of how, let's say, humble you are. You just keep it simple, focus on the things that matter in terms of being present. So let's talk about
But I
how.
will say,
Yeah.
and just I don't want to fool anyone that's watching this. I wasn't always like this.
Okay.
And I think it's important, whether it's maturity or different phases of life, where, learning from others, but also finding yourself as well is important, right? Because, I when I graduated college, and even after, and I was making decent money, is like I was all about the flashy, the watches, and what dress shirts can I buy, and ties, and those types of things, and how much money can I spend on dinners and those types of things. So I think that's important as well. But I think what I've learned personally, and again, there's nothing wrong with all of those nice things, right? Like, I want to be very clear about that. But what I've learned is it's fleeting happiness. And so, to a certain extent, in my situation, I was trying to find happiness in love, in those material things, as opposed to my inner love and happiness.
So where do you find happiness now? So if there's somebody out there that is trying to fill that void with things and cars and watches, how did you gravitate away from them? You mentioned kind of the seasons of life, the phases of life. Is it just a matter of time, or is it something that you had to put your mind and do that self work to realize, hey, like, what am I doing here? What really matters?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I don't know if I have a great answer for it. Like, as I kind of translate it, I think for me personally, I look at it and evaluate it as like, okay, why was I doing the things that I was doing? Why was I spending the money on, fancy t-shirt or dress shirts and all these different things? And I think ultimately it was to try to impress others, right? To show others that I was someone that was maybe higher up, or that has achieved something. And in this transition, I think, and it's important to kind of realize, it's like, one, don't be so full of yourself, Brandon. No one gives I don't know if I can say this, shit about you, right? Like, who cares? But then two, the inner self said, who cares, right? Of what others think about you as well. And I think those two, kind of in just my maturity that I've kind of gone through, helped me in this kind of transition where I loved used to dressing up and wearing all these name brand things and buying expensive jackets and those types of things, is I buy all my stuff from Costco now, and I thrive in wearing hoodies and sweatpants. And, my wife tells me to dress up, and she's happy with a V-neck t-shirt if I dress up now. So I think it's just different perspectives, I guess.
Yeah, I do think one of the things I admire about you, I respect about you, is you just don't give a F about what others think to an extent. I think we all do. That's something I struggle with. Like, I'm always, a little self-conscious, just kind of my upbringing a little bit. But in meeting you, I've kind of realized why I was doing those materialistic things. Don't get me wrong, I still love, the finer things and stuff like that, but I think I do it less to show others. Like you won't ever see me posting any car on Instagram or whatever. It's just, there's things I enjoy.
And
So
again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, right? I think it is individuals that work so hard. It's important to reward your inner self. And what, the other thing is you don't necessarily want to take money with your grave kind of thing, right? And so I think there's a fine balance in life in general, as is in everything in life, right? And I think that's important.
So we talk about, I mean, you just imparted wisdom onto us. What is, you think, one of the most important lessons that you've learned and that are still applying to this day?
It's a good question. I've learned a lot. I'll kind of just start in one of the things that I learned as a child, that has kind of just stuck with me, and I think is one of the reasons that I just am so driven in general, is I wasn't a good student at all. In fact, my teachers would call home probably every year and talk to my parents. And I remember specifically, my dad, well, I got my report card and I got a couple C's, and I was like, Dad, C's average. Like, it's not bad. It's like, it's average. And, in that thought process in school, at least, and I'm not admittedly a school person, but in that mindset, my dad said, yes, but, and he related this to cars as well, because he knew as I love cars, just like you do. He said, but yes, Brandon, it's average. So if you want to drive a Honda and that's your goal because it's average, are you ever going to drive a Mercedes? And that really hit me, because that was a good analogy, because it was like, if you are just striving for average, well, then you're probably going to get less than average.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have that inner desire to strive for more, I think that's kind of what has driven me, and maybe has made me more of a perfectionist than he even knows. But I think that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is, life isn't going to be easy.
Mm.
No matter what level, there's different types of hard. And so you can choose your hard. And you can, and I mean, and we chat consistently, and sometimes business is hard, and managing people and teams are hard, and running a business is hard. And I think it's, you can choose your hard though. And so those are the two lessons that just come to mind on kind of things that I kind of am driven by.
So it seems like the lesson that your father has taught us, and I love this story because you've shared it a few times. I'm glad that you brought up that example. Is, it's about the targets, right? You can get to where you want to get to, but I feel like the biggest regret later on is going to be that you didn't set your sights high enough, right? So if you're going for 100, maybe you're going to land at 90. What's that famous saying? Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. So to anybody listening out there, what Brandon is saying right now is, you can decide to be comfortable, and that's cool. But if you're here on Earth, might as well strive for greatness, right?
Yeah.
It takes the same effort,
Yeah, and I think one of the other important lessons in life, and admittedly I haven't kind of mastered this thought process, but if you look at people on their deathbed, how many people will say on their deathbed, man, I wish I made $1 million more, or man, I wish I wore this brand of clothing, or man, I wish I really could have driven this car for a year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it is about regrets that they had in spending time with family, or taking a chance in doing something that was a passion that they were just too scared to do, or living the life that they wanted to live because they thought living the 9 to 5 was what they should be doing, right? And not taking a chance on themselves or whatever. And I think that's just important to put into perspective. Think about what you would think on your deathbed. Are you going to be upset that you didn't make $1 million? Um, if you had a happy family and you were able to spend time and those, I think that's important to kind of really process as well.
So imagine, turn it back on you, that you're on, I don't want to say, that, but let's say you're just older and wiser. Uh, what would be the way that you define, wow, I've had a successful life. I've had a fulfilled life.
That's a good question. I thought you were actually going to ask the opposite, and I was prepared.
I was going there, but then I decided last second. You know me too well.
um, that's a good question. This is a bit broad. Um, but I lived life my way.
Man, that's a
Um,
Frank Sinatra song. We got to play that right now.
I was able to do what I wanted when I wanted. I was able to take chances and chase dreams. I was able to spend time with my loved ones, first and foremost, family, friends. Um, really, those are the three things. If it like comes down to it, right? Like if I'm like really looking at it, everything else is secondary to that.
Is there something at this point in time that you feel like you're missing out on? Like, oh man, I really wish I could be doing that right now, or I really wish I did that. Is there like any kind of opportunity that maybe you didn't seize, whether it's business, whether it's just, life and experience, trip or something like that?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing in the season that I'm in right now is taking the time to truly actually enjoy the present moment and not be looking, okay, how am I going to grow this business? Or and really it's just about working too hard, working too much rather, not too hard. And finding that balance, because at the end of the day, if I'm doing all of this for the freedom, I have the opportunity to do that now. Why not start now? Why do I need to hit that money? And so I'm talking to myself here when I say, why can't I do that? And my regret won't be, man, I wish I would have made more money. But man, I wish I'd spent more time with Veronica or Dude or whoever. So yeah, that would be kind of my biggest thing in the season that I'm in right now.
So we're not going to do this because, I love you and I don't want to put you on the spot like this, but
You
if,
can put me on the spot. This is going to make for good content.
so let's say Veronica enters your office right now and we ask her, hey, Veronica, what is your number one wish right now? What do you think that would be?
Hers,
Both of yours, let's say.
I mean, I know hers would be for me to work less and to be more present when I'm not working.
So then it's like, how do you balance, that pushing and wanting more with being present and enjoying life?
It's truly just finding that balance, right? Being able to turn off and spending quality time and being creative with like different ideas and activities that we can do. So it is finding that balance, and not everything has to be planned or revolve around work per se as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just, you have to turn your attention, your awareness to it. Not to, I'm not trying to brag or anything. So I'm here with my little doggy. Decided to fly down to Tampa, and this is like a little beach here. I don't know if you guys can see this. And he has been going just crazy. And it's just kind of decision on a whim. So if you're hesitating about, oh man, I've got this project due or this deadline, F that deadline. Just tell your boss to call me. Just go travel, have fun, enjoy it. So All right, enough on that. I think, people get the point. It is really just something you want to turn your attention to. And if you feel like your mental, your physical needs it, you will never regret going out, having fun, especially with family and friends. I mean, that's what you're going to remember or what you're going to regret.
Yeah.
So let's talk about dogs. Dogs give us, they used to give me a lot of anxiety when I didn't have any because I didn't want one.
And
But
you changed your mind.
yeah, yeah, I don't want to insult you here live, but yeah. So
No, well, okay. So let's go back to this. You're interviewing me. Tell me this. Now that you've experienced having a dog,
yeah,
if you could change your decision back to get a dog in the first place, would you make a different decision? You're
no,
welcome. You're
there's
welcome. Your face says it all. You're welcome.
well, I was gonna say I didn't really have a choice. My wife kind of, forced me
Well,
into a
I'm
bit
giving you
of
the
a,
choice.
yeah.
Don't give me that excuse. You have the choice
I
now.
wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way. Matter of fact, we might even get a second one because this guy's crazy. Um, but no, it's absolutely beautiful. So, I just thought that would be a good way to wrap up the thought and discussion on being present because I feel like dogs have it all figured out, man.
Yep.
They just enjoy the simple things. They don't need watches, they don't need cars or girls. Actually, they do like girls, but if they're males. But yeah, they got it all figured out. They just want to have fun, right? They're looking at us all day, playing on our phones, being on our laptops. They don't understand what we're typing or what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, they're like, what is these guys doing on this screen? Look how beautiful he is. He just wants to play. That's all he wants to play. What's up, dude? That was the
This is
most creative
true.
name ever. Hey, dude. He's a good boy. Yeah, he's got it all figured out. And I think the time he enjoys the most is like when we were on a trip together to Delaware, Dewey Beach or Rehoboth, and he had a blast.
Yep.
Two buddies just hanging out. So yeah, I think that's incredibly important. So Brandon, who do you look up to? I mean, you're someone that pushes. Your work ethic is just insatiable. Where do you get all that from?
Um, it's just an inner drive, but I also think it's, if I'm being honest, maybe a little insecurity as well, because I want to prove people wrong. But
Mm.
it's not anyone in particular. I think it's like, and I'm going to be very clear, I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan at all. But it's when you hear stories on people that were great, they figured out ways internally to push themselves. And it's like the stories about Jordan, like almost making stuff up in his mind of like, this player was hating on me or those sorts of things. And I think part of it is probably a little from my childhood where it's just like, I just, for whatever reason. And then the other is just like that drive to just be better and to be, the best in what I do.
So one thing I really respect about you, you've had many, let's say a handful of extremely successful businesses. I mean, if you consider that a business typically fails in the first 2 years, I mean, you've had businesses exit very successfully within, I think, 3 years. And so, I think people look at that and just think, oh, he's lucky, or he's just from a well-off environment. I mean, certainly we have a lot to be thankful for, and we're certainly privileged in terms of the backgrounds that we come from. I mean, just to be born, number one, then to born in America. I mean, we're very, very fortunate. But how the heck do you just keep executing and you go from idea to concept so quickly, right? There's people out there that have a brilliant idea, but they're just paralyzed by this inaction and they're overthinking and they're doing all this brilliant, masterful business plan. How have you managed to go from idea to execution so quickly? And maybe you can even talk about the wild, like, party bus idea, or just any kind of idea that you're proud of that you've undertaken, and speak to the people that are kind of have something that's inspiring in their heart. Maybe they want to become an artist, maybe they want to start a business or an idea, but they just don't know where to start. There's kind of that fear of uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it in the term of inaction. I think one of the things is, one, you just have to be thoughtful in what you are doing or want to do. But then two is, don't overanalyze. just take a small step and take action.
Yeah, like what's a small
And
step you could do today? Like,
and I'm a big believer in, if you do that, momentum will build and you'll start getting this ball that rolls down, like a snowball that rolls down the hill kind of thing, and will continue to build. Um,
what is your like?
Tony Robbins actually says is, this phrase of like knowledge is power. There's a phrase, right? And it's actually knowledge is potential power.
Mm,
The actions that lead to the power. And I think that is important in kind of anyone that is, thinking of wanting to do something or taking action. Like, as an example, when I left my corporate job to start my wellness business or wellness spa, I was making very good money. I was comfortable. But one of the things that one of the big reasons that led me to this is every day I was looking at the clock of, okay, an hour left until I leave. Great, 30 minutes. And like, I did not want to live my life counting down the hours of when I could leave somewhere, because that's where I was spending the majority of my time. And so I could have continued to do that, but instead I evaluated all of the circumstances of, okay, well, what if I did leave the job? What is the worst case scenario? What if I started this business and it did fail? Well, I could always go back and get another job, right? And so, I think it's just taking that action, being smart about the action, right? And then taking that, and then, I believe, if you do things with the good intent and um are thoughtful about it, I even if it's something, if it fails, you're going to be a better person for it.
absolutely. And that's the thing I think people don't realize is what's the worst that could happen? You're going to take a gamble. It's not like you can't go back to whatever stable thing you had. It'll be there.
Yep.
So go try it out, right? The upside is way too much to not take that risk.
Exactly.
So thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about giving. Got 15 minutes to go here. So, you talked about one of your role models being, Michael Jordan. And I agree with you. I mean, whatever way that drives you, you should lean into that. Whatever kind of pushes your buttons. For me, if you tell me I can't do something, you're on. It's going to get done. Like, that's how you can push my buttons. But, who is someone that has directly given to you in your life? Maybe a direct, mentor, or just someone that supported you, opened up the door for opportunities in your life.
I'm not just saying this, but I think, in our friendship and a relationship, we met at the gym, and um we have a lot of good friends from the gym, but I think we do have a unique relationship that is a special bond in just motivating each other, sharing ideas. I think we have the same um, values and desires as well in the future. And I know, we were texting earlier today, and I think or not, I don't think you motivate me just as much as you say that I motivate you. And I think that's important, and giving different perspectives as well. So I'm not saying that because you're interviewing me, but I would say you would be one of them.
Thank you, brother. It means a lot to me. Since I've met you, a lot of things that you brought to my life are, being that you're much older than I am,
Yeah.
is
That, and I gave you a dog. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'll remember that.
no, I remember one time driving. I have my guilty pleasure is cars, but you really made me stop and think of, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that could be anything. Like, why am I going to the gym every day? Why am I um traveling or going to this place, or whatever it is? I think it is important to stop and think of your purpose and your why, and like to truly connect with that. It sounds all wishy-washy, but it is really important, especially now we're coming to the end of the year. We're recording this, December 20th. I would highly encourage everyone, this is what you've been able to do for me, is to stop and think and just plan. What do I want to accomplish? But most importantly, why do I want to accomplish it, right? And then the how will come,
Yeah.
right? And that's, it goes back to kind of like those little steps. So you have always been open to give and share your wisdom. What I love about you is like that mindset of abundance, where the pie is huge and we can all eat and have that slice. So thank you for saying that. But yeah, it has to go right back to you. Because of you, I've been able to work with a life coach who's basically, also like my therapist. Essentially, it's someone that I get to bounce my crazy ideas off of. You and I have had a business venture together that went well. We invest in each other in every sense of the word. So I think it's important for people. I'm not trying to turn this into a love fest, but the lesson here is just that it's really important to have an accountability buddy. We have a lot of our other friends, Ace and Dennis, that are also about that. Every successful person that you see, Michael Jordan included, I'm sure, has an accountability buddy. He actually started something called the Breakfast Club, right? So it's people go to the gym very early in the morning. So I think it's really, really important to have someone that can call you out. You're not afraid to call me out, right? If I didn't bring it, or whatever our commitment was week to week, and we meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m., I don't want to come to that meeting not having accomplished something or committed something to myself, and also you, but most importantly to myself. I'm ashamed if I come and I didn't accomplish something, right? So I think it's really important in your life, who's that person that you can have that can call you out, that believes in you, that'll push you. Maybe it's just that daily message every day. One thing that I love is, I wake up maybe every other day, or even if it's just once a week, it's more often than not, you'll send me a message of encouragement. Carolyn will do the same. My wife, not so much. Just kidding.
That's because she has to wake up next to you.
Yeah. If Nougat could text, hopefully my puppy Nougat would send me some texts. But yeah, I'm extremely grateful. But I think it's also like you have to seek that out. You have to first want to get better yourself to then attract that energy. Because the only reason we've been, working together and wanted to make each other better is because we want to first better ourselves. And once you are able to kind of better yourself, you want to give, you want to share, right? So thanks for saying that. And then I guess what can we do, like, to give back? I guess before even answering that, how have you given? Number one, how have you given back? What are some ways that others can give back?
Yeah. For me, like giving back, I think I do give back to like church as far as like donations are concerned. And then, as we share, it's like what I like to call is like random acts of kindness.
Mm.
And just like finding individuals that we can either provide financial kind of assistance to, or, other types of, needs if needed. So, for me, one, you know, I don't want to say adopted, but like I had a close relationship with a homeless guy that I met actually randomly on the streets. And um, this was a couple of years ago. And I asked if he, committed to a certain thing to make sure that he was on the right path, that I would help him out. And so, I met him at the shelter a couple times, took him to, and this is kind of where it's interesting is I told him like we can go to lunch anywhere. Obviously, we weren't going to go to like a steakhouse, but he's like, "Oh no, all I need is like just McDonald's," and ordered like a couple things on the dollar menu, and that was it. And he was just so grateful, and I think that was super rewarding. So stuff like that, or just finding random people to lighten their day. Like one of the things that we've done this season is I bought gift cards. Actually, I have two more to give out. Right here actually. um Gift cards, and these are Trader Joe gift cards. And so like at each store that we go to and shop, just find random people and just give them a gift card and say, hey, happy holidays. Like, and in it is the receipt with I'll show you receipt where I just say happy holidays, spread the cheer. So yeah, I have two more to give out that I need to give out this week. But yes, just stuff like that. We are just truly blessed and fortunate, and sometimes we can get caught up in like, I'm going to get to this value or valuation or wealth, and then that's when I'm going to start doing. And as you know, the saying goes, show me someone's habits when they don't have money, and I'll show you their habits when they do have money. And so I think that's important.
Money does seem to kind of amplify who you are as a person. Um, why is it that the people that have the least are always wanting to give the most, or they seem to be, the happiest? It's always like the more we accumulate, things and stuff like that, like it feels like life gets more complicated. We get blinded and like our judgment gets clouded. What the hell is that about?
I think it's what society is kind of training us to look at and to do, to be quite honest. Especially in this day and age with social media where you're just comparing left and right one after another. That's what I attribute it to. But the other thing is, it's when we look at life in general, love and connection is like one thing that leads to a lot of happiness. And in this day and age, when you have a lot, you're missing out, you're sacrificing, because there's only 20, everyone has 24 hours in a day. And those that don't have as much money, all they have is the love, connection, community that they have with their loved ones and family members and friends and those sorts of things. And I think that's what leads to more happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Love and connection. So, just for everybody listening, so there's basically like four basic human needs plus two. So see if we can try to remember them. So it's basically significance, love and connection, certainty, and uncertainty. Right. So let's try to kind of dissect them without taking too much time. So significance is just like, status, right? So, oh, I'm rocking this watch, I'm rocking this
I'm
car.
a CEO of a company. I'm whatever, right? Like whatever you can attribute to, oh, that person is the significance.
But it could also be, and sorry if this sounds morbid, but it could be, someone has a gun to your head. Why do they do that? They want significance. They want to be the most important people in your life at that point, right? So there's like cheap significance. Then there's certainty. So there's a lot of people in life that want to know how things are going to go always. That's not me. That's why I'm a tap, but I just really,
I'm certainty.
yes. Yeah.
I think that's where we're probably the most different, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
I think opposites attract in that sense. We're polarizing in that sense. I'm very much like an uncertainty guy. So I love variety, basically, is another word to say uncertainty. And then love and connection we just talked about. So the plus two is where life really happens for you. And that's growth and contribution.
Yep.
So can you please tell, the listeners, the viewers about growth and contribution, why they're so important, how it's impacted your life?
Yeah, I mean, so growth, the way I view it is like someone's constantly learning or growing in whatever they're doing. So they're not staying stagnant, which is something that one of the things that drives me to entrepreneurship and business is like, you're not just working a 9 to 5 and, doing the same thing. So I think that's what helped drives me. But growth is that, right? It's like, how am I improving? How am I growing? How am I learning new things? How am I trying new things? Those types of things. So that's growth. And I would say the biggest thing that I kind of get that growth is through entrepreneurship and being my own business owner and growing teams and growing businesses as a whole. So I think that's number one. Contribution is like giving back, being able to give to others, giving to a charitable cause or to others. And I think we chatted about that, right? Like giving back to church or giving to random individuals or being able to give to my wife or those types of things. And I think those are kind of the two biggest impacts that I have kind of in those two areas.
So as we're wrapping up here, what is something that you really would love to accomplish next year? Like if you could accomplish just one thing next year, what do you think that would be? 23, Jordan year. Let's go.
take time off without thinking about work at all.
Whew, that's a tough one for you, man.
I know.
That is a tough one. Even for me, I'm often still working.
Yep, I know.
How the hell are we gonna do that?
We're gonna hold each other accountable. I would say that's number one. Number two, we've talked about not, caring so much about material possessions and things, but I think a lot of where my mindset is how do I make business opportunities? How do we make more money just as an entrepreneur in general? And two is just enjoying life for life, not relating it to how we can make more money or how we can, get ahead. And it's just like enjoying life for life. I think those are the two things as I get older, and then as we have a baby on the way. So I think those two things are
Yes,
important.
absolutely. So I wanted to leave the best for last. You let the the bundle of joy out there. But one last question before we conclude. Cannot wait to hear about your beautiful bundle of joy. Um, I think we had this conversation about you being essentially a creator, like you love creating, ideas and stuff like that. And I think this is just a comment, not even really a question. Like, I don't think we should really feel guilty about like creating and doing what we love. It isn't about the money. Like, I really don't think it is. It's just about like creating and like that process, that journey. It is so exciting. You and I did a business together, did something pretty cool, like yoga wheels, right? You did a business basically like a party bus I just found this out, like, as we were doing the pre-interview, I was like, that's crazy. So, you probably don't even know how much you made in that business, but it was fun at the time, right? Like in the seasons of life. And so I think we shouldn't feel guilty about like starting new things
Yep.
and or just continuing. If that's what you enjoy and you want to stay in the same career for 30 years or the same business for 30 years or 2 years and then move on to something else, like that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's great. Just make sure the purpose behind it is something that is fulfilling.
Exactly.
So speaking of fulfillment, not a lot of people have this blessing uh, in their life. I hope to have it soon. I'll get to work right after the wedding. But dude, how do you feel? Congratulations on Veronica being pregnant. She's
Thank
been
you.
there for you forever. Now you guys get to be there for your beautiful. I don't want to say the
Thank you.
gender unless you're comfortable saying it.
Girl, it's gonna be a girl. I'm terrified.
You got your shotgun yet?
Huh?
You got your shotgun yet?
Yeah, right. No, I'm we've talked about seasons in life, and I think um this is just the next season in my life and next season in our lives, right? And it will change perspective, and I'll probably learn some more things in this season of life. And um just like you were terrified of getting a dog or upset and angry about getting a dog,
Mm-hmm.
you've grown in that season, and now you can't imagine life without the love of your dog. So I think it will probably help me in some of my goals of being able to not work as much and um focusing time and spending time with her and V and all those things. So I think it's good, and I'm a big believer, I'm never going to force anything as far as, everything happens for a reason. And so, who knows what the next years have ahead in store for us as a whole. And um just gotta let it go and make the most of it.
The fatherhood, is that the next season of life then?
That is unfortunately. No, fortunately. No, it's I'm excited. Obviously a lot of goes through my mind, and just have to reprioritize and kind of figure it out and go from there.
Anything that I didn't ask you, Brandon, that I should have asked you or forgot?
Why am I so good looking? No, I have no control over it. No, I think you hit it all. I think maybe, for anyone that's watching this, and maybe they are contemplating certain things in life or deciding whether they are going to make the right decision or whatever that is. I think it's, at the end of the day, as we talked about, is like take action and just trust your gut. I'm a big believer, if you're doing it for the right thing and the right purpose, just trust your gut. And you'll be better for it, whether you fail or not. And I think that's important to highlight as well. Failure is not true failure unless you don't learn something from it.
Yeah, I mean, and your gut, like there's literally an entire nervous system in your gut. There's 100 million nerve cells in your gut. So if it's telling you something, go with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's great advice. Brandon, as a conclusion to this, I wanted to thank you. Not a lot of people at Living to Give know this, but you and I were talking about this. I was, quote unquote, working out, just looking at my phone at the gym again. And we were talking, and you had shared with me a brilliant idea of, hey, like, how can we share stories of, maybe it's cancer survivors or just people that have been going through pain. And I was thinking about that a lot. And so that is a huge part of what inspired me to take action on this. Just people sharing their stories, just like you're sharing now. But it is focused around, the secret to living is giving, which is a quote from Tony Robbins. Since I've met you, again, you've given me, I think it was like 6 free sessions with a life coach, and then it was, an exorbitant amount of money. But I realized the best investment you can make, even though I'm, background in real estate and all that, is in yourself, right? So I think it's extremely important to just back yourself, invest in yourself, have that abundance mindset, and then you can give on to others. So this is just to say thank you so much, Brandon, for always inspiring me. You're a huge reason why this channel and community exists, and thank you for contributing to it. And I love you, brother. Thank you so much for your time.
Just remember me when you make it bigger than Gary Vee and Lewis Howes, okay?
Oh, sounds good. Well, I'm not going to be doing any sponsored ads, so this is all for love, all just for, I'll finish with this. So the reason I'm also doing this is not just to give, people out there that need help and encourage them and, provide wisdom, but especially when I interview my friends, and, I consider you family, it's cool to have chosen family, if you will. It's a way for me to get to know you more. And I've gotten to know you more. I've learned more about you now than, I knew before. So thanks for being open and vulnerable and sharing. And somehow I love you even more, brother. So thank you again.
Brother. I love you and proud of you for always taking action and just leading this with this and being consistent. And, how many interviews have you had before me in such a short period of time? You are a man of action, and that's something that I respect of you. And that's something that I learn and you motivate me for as well. So love you, brother. And appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. All right, let's go buy more dogs.
All right.